at the most inappropriate time. The caller knows your name, knows other personal information, and then tries to sell you something. Has this happened to you? It's happened to me. We all, I'm sure, have been at the end and the receiving end of this. A response to this is the Protection of Personal Information Act that will force companies to ensure personal homage. Well, to discuss this in detail, we've got in studio with us Andrew Kirkland. Thank you, Andrew. Good to have you. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning. Thank you.
Give us a little bit more detail about this, the Protection of Information Act. What does it entail?
I think before I go there, let's put some context as to why Poppy actually exists today. Cybercrime is on the increase, and a lot of companies are found wanting in terms of how to address a lot of the security issues that they're exposed to from these breaches. So to give you some statistics, a company like SABC, for example, announced that credit card fraud, the loss experienced in South Africa increased 22% in 2013 alone. And that's a loss of 366 million rand to the South African banking industry, for example.
In credit card
fraud, yes. So in addition to that, identity theft is on the increase. These criminals will basically use your credentials elsewhere in the world, for example, and this is to sort of do personal gain, apply for loans in your name, get the benefit, but then use it with the issue of the credit issues later on down the line, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So what Poppy really aims to try and achieve is to put some controls and measures in place that companies have to adhere to in order to protect your personal information. And that's really the context of where Poppy comes from.
Wow. Okay, so how far are we? Where are we with this particular act?
Well, it's fairly new. It's just been passed. It was passed and signed into law by the President last year in November. We are in the process of waiting for the regulator to be appointed. This is typically a 6-month process, so around about July, I think we'd have an announcement being made about who that regulator is going to be. Okay. And then typically, once the regulator has been appointed, we expect that for the next 12 months, any company who has access or utilizes personal information for whatever business purpose they may have has to comply with Poppy. So it's got a 12-month window to comply.
Yeah. I mean, it's big business, clearly, to sell databases, to get databases, because, you know, I often ask myself, I never understand where people get my information from, because, I mean, I've never given it out to, like I was telling you off air, I constantly get updates from some off-road biking place. I've never done off-road biking in my life before, and it's not one of my interests. So, you know, how does it happen? And I can never, there's never an opt-out on this. You know, I'm sort of stuck in it for life, and that's a problem.
It certainly is. From a direct marketing perspective, the Consumer Protection Act, you know, sort of covers the realms of direct marketing and all the laws around that. Poppy really focuses on the electronic element only. You know, in terms of SMSs, the phone calls that you get, the emails that you get. In particular around watching out for things like phishing exercises where, you know, maybe you are an enthusiast in the biking industry and you know, unknowingly click on a link within an email to, you know, spark that interest that this email is basically asking you of. And basically all of a sudden you've got malicious software being downloaded onto your computer, which is basically watching everything you're doing on your laptop or your computer. So
really, so you got to really be careful.
You got to be really careful. So it's a direct marketing is really just a drop in the ocean when it comes to the security realms about what, you know, data security is all about.
Yeah. So I should be grateful that I'm just receiving an SMS because my banking details could be hacked, my personal details, like you say, my identity could be copied. So you've really got to be careful and don't just click on things. Don't just give your details to anybody. What advice can you give to people? Because, I mean, it's a rather scary picture that you're painting.
Well, Poppy gives you a lot more control and power and access to that personal information that you're now basically offering. So at the end of the day, you know, what consumers should be doing is asking, you know, why am I giving you this information? For what purpose are you using this information? And if the company complies with the Poppy laws, they are required to divulge what it is that purpose is for, etc., etc. Once that purpose has been realized or expires, the law requires that those companies remove that information or destroy it in some way.
Yeah. What happens if somebody phones me? I mean, that's a big thing, and everybody gets that. When you see that private number coming up on your phone, and you know inevitably that this is going to be a sales pitch. And you can't shout at the call center person because it's their job. But at the end of the day, what right do I have? Do I have the right to say, where did you get my number from? Who gave this to you? But they inevitably don't have those answers.
That's right. So first of all, it's our constitutional right to privacy. That's the first thing. And if that understanding, you can certainly ask the question. Before divulging any information, ask the question, where did you get my information from? What's the source of this information, etc. The call center agents, I actually feel sorry for them to a certain degree because, at the end of the day, they're doing a job.
Yeah.
It's not unlawful to actually share this information, to sell databases or to buy databases.
So it's not unlawful?
It's not unlawful. However, what Poppy sets in motion is that if you do this badly, then it is unlawful, and therefore there are repercussions relating to that.
Yeah.
The reputational damage is a big one, all right? So you don't want to be seen as an unlawful organization, and then it's all over the press, for example. Other repercussions, things like the regulator could fine you up to 10 million just for not following the law,
yeah.
Or alternatively, the consumer could actually open up a civil case against that organization and sue them for whatever many millions.
I mean, you say, and this gets me, because you say it's not unlawful to sell databases, but when I'm signing something and I'm giving my details over,
yes.
I don't sign a clause that says, do you mind if we give your details to absolutely anybody who asks for it? If I give them permission, then do it. But I don't ever grant that permission. So that is an absolute invasion of my privacy. So how is it lawful? I mean, there must be. This is a very grey area.
It certainly is. Although with the new act, companies are now required to actually put on those forms. Are we allowed to do this? They have to get consent.
And if you say no?
If you say no, they are not allowed to use that information.
I don't know many people who would say yes.
No, yeah. Exactly.
And that's the reality.
Exactly. And that's why consumers need to ask the question, where was the source of my information? Because the interesting thing is, you may say yes to something because you're interested in it and you want to know more and you want to be notified about those particular things. And somehow that organization may have shared that information with a third party. And it's the third parties that you don't recognize.
That's it.
And that's where the law comes into play. So you have a right to ask the question, where was that source? And they have to divulge that information to you. If they don't, certainly you can start complaining. And the first port of call is to complain to the regulator directly. And that regulator will then go in and investigate the issues to the point where you could have a civil case open up against that particular third party if they haven't followed the law.
All right, good. Well, those are your rights. I hope it helped you a little bit when it comes to this, because I know it's very frustrating and many people complain about this. So the Act helps organizations fight cybercrime. Among other things, the Act requires that personal data be deleted once the objective has been achieved. Many South Africans will be delighted to hear that there is a law that can protect them from getting those unknown calls from people trying to sell them things. I certainly am happy about that. I just hope it's enforced properly. Andrew Kirkland, thanks for chatting to us.
You're very welcome.
It's been great having you here.
Thank you for having me.